Cause you know I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass.
As you can see, there's a bunch of streets and lines, and I'm going to get back to this map, so just take a look at the lines and streets. Okay, so as you mark this into your blue book, the vocab words you're going to do are transversal, skew, and angle relationships. So put that in your table of contents. And the notes section is the parallel lines cut by a transversal. So put that in your blue book in the table of contents in the notes section. So let's begin with our first word, which is transversal. Transversal is a line that intersects two or more lines in a plane at different points. So, for example, right here I have two lines drawn, and a transversal would be a line that goes through both of them. So let's see. Let's say this line, call it N. Line N is the transversal. So you could say line N transverses, if that makes sense, lines L and M. I'm going to do this on the side in blue, so don't draw this part. But if you have two lines and a transversal goes through those two lines, but it's at the same point, then technically this line, the pink line, is not a transversal. It has to be at different points. So they have to be at different points. Because or else if they all intersect, any one of them could technically be called the transversal. The transversal is the one that goes through all of the lines at different points. The next word is skew. S-K-E-W. Skew are lines that don't intersect and are not coplanar. So think of them as technically not parallel, but they don't intersect. So in the picture, the easiest way to show it is with a three-dimensional shape, so a cube or a box. Try your best to draw it. Lines that are not intersecting would be, for example, let's say if I were to look at line FH or segment FH, so I'm just going to go in yellow a little bit. FH is parallel to BD, EG, and technically AC. Because since this is a cube, if I were to put a plane that goes right through the diagonal, technically they are parallel. All right, so those were all parallel. And anything that touches H or F would be intersecting. So the parts that are not, or the segments that are not, are skew. For example, CG is skew to FH. They don't intersect ever, and they're not in the same plane. AE and FH are skew. AE and FH will never intersect. AB and FH are skew. CD and FH are skew. Just all those to the segment FH. So FH is skew with AB, CD, CG, and AE. Technically, I'm going to change this instead of saying with, it's skew to, kind of like parallel to or perpendicular to. Skew would be that same type of relationship. So FH is skew to AB, CD, CG, and AE. So when you draw this next vocabulary word, I ended up putting a black rectangle right here on the bottom just to kind of get rid of it. You don't need to have that part of the picture. So technically these two little arrows, there was another line down here, but I'm not making you draw it for these angle relationships. So there's a lot of words on here. If you want to pause so you can draw everything down and write all the words down, go ahead. As I go through each angle relationship, I'm going to show you how which ones they are on the picture, and then I'll let you know what kind of special relationship they have. So the first one is interior. Interior means on the inside of the two parallel lines. So we're looking at the inside. Which ones are the angles inside the parallel lines? That would be everything right there. So that's angle 2, angle 3, angle 6, and angle 7. All of those are inside the parallel lines. And using that, all the exterior angles would be the ones on the outside. So angle 1, angle 5, angle 4, and angle 8. Consecutive means one right after the other. And consecutive means right next to each other in the picture. So in between the two parallel lines, there's nothing in between them, no line, nothing. The consecutive interior angles would be angle 2 and angle 3. Those two are consecutive. They're right next to each other. There's no line hiding them or in between them. Another one would be angle 6 and angle 7. Sorry. Angle 6 and angle 7. Alternate exterior. Alternate means they go from one side of the transversal to the other. It alternates on either side. Exterior means on the outside of the two parallel lines. So remember, exterior would be 1, 5, 4, and 8, but which ones alternate? So angle 1 alternates with angle 8. So angle 1 and angle 8 are alternate exterior angles. You could also say the same for angles 5 and angle 4. Alternate interior angles are the same, except instead of dealing with the outside, we're dealing with the inside. So they alternate on the transversal, however they're on the inside of the two parallel lines. Angle 2 and angle 7 alternate, and they're on the inside. Same thing goes for angles 3 and angle 6. Corresponding is a little bit tricky. Corresponding means in the same place. So it's kind of hard to show this to you, but with every 4 angles in a picture, so not looking at this right now, but with every 4 angles, there's one on the top right, one on the top left, one on the bottom left, and one on the bottom right. So that refers to the same thing on my drawing. So looking on the right side, looking within these 4 angles, 4 is on the top right. So angle 4 corresponds to which one on this side in this group of 4 angles? That would be angle 2. So angle 4 and angle 2 correspond because they're both technically the top right. Using that same method, angle 3 and angle 1 are both on the top left. Angle 5 and angle 6, or not angle 6, angle 5 and angle 7, they're both on the bottom left. Angle 6 and angle 8, they're both on the bottom right. Okay, now important thing that I want to add about all of these. I'm going to put this on the side. Consecutive interior angles, I'm going to write right here on the side 180 because technically those add up to 180. Alternate exterior are congruent, alternate interior are congruent, and corresponding are congruent. So let's show this on the picture. So 8 and 3 are congruent because they're vertical angles. 1 and 6 are congruent because they're vertical angles. Since 1 and 3 are corresponding, they're both on the top left, 6 and 8 are both on the top right, they're all congruent. All my blue angles are congruent. With 2 and 5 are vertical angles, so they're congruent. 2 is on the top right, so angle 4 is congruent to 2. And 4 and 7 are congruent. Just ignore my black circle in the middle. I can't erase it right now. So all the blue angles are congruent to themselves. All the pink angles are congruent to themselves. This will help you with the assignment. Let's go to the notes section. Parallel lines cut by a transversal. If you need a pause so you can copy everything down, go ahead. So for number 1 and number 2, you're using the same picture, and they give you a couple of information. Number 1, the information is different for number 2. However, what you do notice is that here are your parallel lines. Only these two. The one on the left and the one on the right, they are not parallel. I even made it obvious that they're not parallel. The only way you would know if they were parallel if they had that little arrow on the line, and they don't. When you're looking at your picture, before you solve anything, make your congruent marks. Okay, so just focusing on this transversal, let's look at all the angle pair relationships. So you have 2 and 3, top right, bottom left, and their vertical angles. You also have 6 and 7, top right and bottom left. They are congruent. And then the other ones, 1 and 4 is congruent, 5 and 8 is congruent. And there you go. The first problem is about angle 4, which is my blue one. So I'm just going to go over it in blue just so I know. So if this is 110, before I find specific angles, what you could do is just do the math and figure out all the angles. Everything that's blue is 110. So if it helps you to mark it down, put 110 on all of them. How do I find out the red or the pink ones? Well, if this is a straight line, then these two angles should add up to 180. So if this is 110, do a little math, that ends up 70. So all the pink ones are 70. So now let's answer the questions. Angle 5, find angle 5. Angle 5 is blue. That's 110. Angle 1 is blue. That's also 110. And angle 7 is pink, and I wrote 70. There you go. For number 2, you now are looking at the other side of the transversal. So you're now looking at this transversal and all of the angles around it. The only information that's given to me is that angle 13 is 82. So top left, bottom right, top left, bottom right. So for number 2, I want you to ignore the left side. You don't use the left side on anything because the transversal is this line. You're looking at all the angles around that transversal. So if you have to cover it up, do whatever, don't cross it off because you need it for the first set of notes. But just don't worry about the left side right now. So angle 9 and 12, angle 13 and this one are congruent. Then the rest of the other ones are congruent. So these two right here and then these two right here. I only have 82 degrees and that's the 13. So I have to do some math to figure out the other one. To figure out the other one, they add up to a straight line. So you just take 180 minus 82 and you get 98. So that means this side is 98. Of these are 98. All the green ones are 82. I don't have space to label it, so if you have space, great, go for it. Angle 9. So angle 9, you just have to find it. Angle 9 is green, and all the green ones are 82. Angle 12 is also green, and he's 82. Angle 11, that's going to be the 98. Okay, so scrolling down to the bottom of the notes, this is question number 3. You need to find all of this information. Now, based on the picture that you have on the right, if you need to go ahead and pause the video so you can copy it all down, then we can answer the questions. There's a lot of stuff going on. You have to find all of these angles, but do not worry. What I want you to do is look at the picture and fill in as much as you know based on the two parallel lines. These are the only two parallel lines, and then these side ones, they are the transversals. Okay, so based on what you know, fill in as much as possible, then we can come back right here and answer the questions. So let's go and start with the first degree I have, which is 75. 75 is on the top right of this transversal. So ignore the other transversal. So ignore this line for now. 3 is a part of that one, 4, 5, 7, 8, and the 125. Ignore those numbers. So if you need to cover it up, please do so. Just cover it up with your hand or something. You don't use them. So 75 is the top right, and here's the bottom left. They are congruent. Here's the top right. Here's the bottom left. They are congruent. To find angle 6, all you have to do is one simple operation. You take 180 minus 75, and you get 105. So that means this is 105 degrees. This is 105. Angle 1 is 105, and angle 2 is 105. Okay. If you want to, since we already added all of the ones about the one transversal, all the angles, we can put those numbers onto my answer. So angle 1 was 105. This is angle 2 is 105. 6 is 105. And that's it for that transversal. So now let's look at the other transversal. So now let's focus on this transversal. 125 is the top right, so he's congruent to the bottom left because those are vertical angles. Here's the top right and the bottom left at the top of the transversal. That means all of the blue ones are congruent and they're 125. To figure out what the other angles are, we're just going to have to do a little math. So you just take 180 minus 125. 10 minus 5 is 5. 7 minus 2 is 5. because of the fact that this is a straight line, this is a linear pair. These two angles are supplementary. That's why I'm using the 180. A straight line makes 180. So if I already have 125, the rest has to be 55. So this is 55 degrees, and the bottom right is 55. Same thing on the top here. I have nothing here, but that's 55. And this angle, angle 5, is 55. Now that I have my answers, let's fill them in. Angle 3 is blue, and blue is 125. Angle 4 is blue, and that's 125. Angle 5 is the 55. Angle 7 is the 55. And angle 8 is 125. Notice how I always use different colors. It helps me. The answers pop out a lot faster and a lot easier. Okay, so back to the map. What I was asking is, do you see any parallel lines cut by transversal? So here's my question. Paris Boulevard and technically LaSalle or Evans, they are parallel right now in this section of the map. So in this section of the map, they are parallel. So I'm going to put my little parallel symbols. Which ones are the transversals? What could be a transversal? The obvious one is Ramona Expressway. Ramona Expressway would be a transversal. If I had any other line that went through both of these lines, that would have been the transversal. And there you go.